Being a veterinarian is not all about dealing with puppies and kittens all day, every day. There are some really difficult and some really challenging things that we need to do in this profession. And today I want to talk about the 5 worst things about being a veterinarian. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex from ourpetshealth.com, helping you and your pet live a healthier, happier life. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely consider subscribing by hitting that button down below. And so this video is a follow-up to the 5 best things about being a veterinarian. So don't think that I'm all down and really hate doing this job, but I think it's important that everyone is aware that being a vet is not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not all about cuddling puppies and kittens all day, every day. And there are some really challenging things that go on with this profession that I think every pet owner should know. This is also a personal list, and there's so many different things that we can do as a vet. And so what I dislike might be something that another vet actually really enjoys dealing with. And the first one is seeing pets with problems that are easily treatable, easily managed, and the owner is just completely ignoring them. So it's really hard when we see an animal suffering, but the owner just really doesn't care. They're not interested in exploring treatment options. They're not interested in listening to the impact that it has on their animal. And that ranges from things, just simple things like obesity, dental disease, arthritis, that very often many pet owners will actually dismiss as not being a problem, not being a high priority, and not recognizing the impact that it has on their pet, despite being told in no uncertain terms the detrimental effect that it is having on their pet. It's really hard not to care more than the pet owners sometimes. Next up is being expected to perform miracles. Now clearly this isn't every pet owner. Most have completely realistic expectations, but we definitely get some people who will come into a consultation room, expect you to be able to diagnose and fix their pet without giving permission for running any form of diagnostics, any form of surgeries, any form of treatment trials. Effectively, they're asking you to go into the boxing ring with your hands tied behind your back and expecting you to land that KO blow. I absolutely don't expect everybody to be able to afford everything that needs to be done. That's just not realistic, and it's perfectly acceptable to say, no, we don't want to do this diagnostic test, let's try treatment. That's absolutely fine. But for every grade A plan that gets turned down, we have to accept that there are going to be some compromises, some corners cut to try and do the best for your pet, to try and find the best treatment, to try and diagnose that problem. And that's absolutely fine. But we need to accept that. We can't expect miracles if we're not able to perform. If I'm not allowed to perform any diagnostics, then I'm relying on my experience, I'm relying on my clinical exam, which is all very well and good, but unusual things sometimes happen. And sometimes there are just conditions that we cannot diagnose in any sense of the word without performing those tests. So that's really challenging and it's really stressful. And unfortunately, those are the same people who will often go and leave negative reviews online, who will be very argumentative, who will argue about paying their bill. And that just adds a whole nother element of stress to the job. And then talking about people writing online reviews, conspiracy theories has got to be the next worst thing about being a veterinarian. So if you spend any time online, it could be Facebook, different forums, reviews, then you'll have read about vets earning hundreds of thousands of dollars by being paid off by drug companies or by pet food companies. Other people will say that vets just want to keep their patients unwell so that they can make more money from having more sick patients. And all that is clearly ridiculous. But this continual kind of negative portrayal that we get, and we'll even get that in the main press as well, that we're just out to exploit our patients. It does have an effect. We're a caring profession. We absolutely care about our patients. And when we're being told that that's not valued, that actually we're all either corrupt or uncaring or greedy, it does take a toll on the profession's mental state as a whole. So, vets, they're saddled with a massive amount of debt, student debt, and I'll go into that actually in my video about how much a vet earns, and I'll leave a link down in the description and at the end screen as well. Vets go through a whole lot to get to where they are. So there's a huge amount of time spent at vet school, there's a massive debt that they take on, and all they want to do is help their patients. But to have this negative portrayal all the time can be really challenging. I'm in the online space, and absolutely I expect the odd troll, the odd negative comment, and I can kind of disregard that, thankfully. But a lot of my colleagues aren't able to detach themselves, and through no fault of their own, they shouldn't have to detach themselves from their feelings. And like I say, that really does have a negative effect on being a veterinarian. And then this all ties into what is for me one of the worst things about being a veterinarian, and that's emotional blackmail. So that's when people say, well, if you cared, you'd do it for free. And that's just not fair. That's not a fair criticism for anybody to make. We wouldn't expect anybody else to do their job for free, and nor should you expect your veterinarian to do it for free. We've gone through a lot of training, we have saddled ourselves with an awful lot of debt, and actually providing veterinary care is very expensive. So the drugs can cost a lot of money, the equipment that we need costs a lot of money. We've got a lot of support staff, our receptionists, our nurses, our veterinary technicians who do a fantastic job. They all need to be paid. So to expect us to do our job for free is just completely unrealistic. And to say that if we cared, we would do it for free is just simply not fair. And I think this emotional blackmail is one of the many reasons that mental health within the veterinary profession is so poor. It's something I've spoken about several times in the past, but if you're not aware, the suicide rate among vets is about 4 times more than the general population. The burnout rates are incredibly high at the moment. The people leaving the profession, the veterinarians and the nurses and technicians leaving the profession is really high, just because the challenges that we face are extreme. They are sometimes, very often, life or death situations. And so when we add in this emotional blackmail to the mix, it really does play a huge role and take its toll. And then the final job that I dislike about being a vet is actually being on call. So I've always worked in practices where we do our own call, so we provide a 24-hour cover for our patients, and I think that is very important. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely believe that every veterinarian needs to be able to make sure that their patients have access to veterinary care 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But what I've found is initially, when I graduated, I found being on call very challenging, very stimulating. You get an awful lot of the exciting cases, if you like, after hours, the emergency cases. We need to think on our feet. We've maybe got limited staff to do the job that we need. And it's, very rewarding environment to be in as well, because you get the cesarean sections and all that kind of thing as well, which are incredibly rewarding. But as I've got older, certainly I've been doing this for a while now, and I've always done my own on call. So that's not 24/7 that I'm on call. We work in a rota with the other vets in the clinic, and sometimes working with other practices in the area as well. But it does take time away from your family at weekends, when you can't go and do things, you can't go and see your children doing certain things. So now that I'm older and I've got 2 young children, I'm certainly finding that that a compromise. But also getting woken up in the middle of the night after having a busy day at work, kind of going into the practice, maybe spending 2 or 3 hours dealing with an emergency, getting an hour or 2 back in bed before getting up and going to work the next day. It does take its toll. It does become harder to do. So, that is another challenge of being a veterinarian. So this might seem like quite a negative video, but I do think it's important that pet owners know some of the downsides about being a veterinarian and some of the challenges that we face when we're trying to help you and your pets to the best of our ability. But don't worry, I've got 5 best things about being a veterinarian in the video that I'll link up on the screen now. So definitely go and check that out. But until next time, I'm Dr. Alex. This is Our Pets Health, because they're family.